and welcome to Climate Check with me, Mary Mwiikisa. Now today I am coming to you from the tourist capital Livingstone in Southern Province, and right behind me is the mighty Zambezi River, one of the major rivers that Zambia boasts of. Now today on the show we are focusing on the impact of climate change on the river system. As you may recall, Zambia suffered a major drought in 40 years in the 2024 season, and of course this impacted many sectors including the river systems. And of course on the show we'll understand the impact of climate change, its full context on the river system, and also some of the mitigation and adaptation measures being put in place by various stakeholders to address this very issue. Also on the program, we will understand the freshwater systems, as recently various stakeholders from across Africa convened in Lusaka, Zambia, to focus on freshwater systems. That and much more. Stay with us on Climate Check. Now, to start the show, we focus on an innovation that is providing alternative sources of energy for our cooking solutions. We know that as a result of the drought that we suffered as a country, we have seen the influx of solar systems on the market, gas stoves on the market, and many others. And let's look at this innovation that focuses on clean cooking and also providing a solution to climate change, whereby you and I should not use unsustainable means of cooking such as charcoal. And so let's take a look at this interview.
Quite a long story, but it's a journey that has lasted 10 years. I would say started in school. Yes, when I went to my, specifically 10th grade. But it's something that I've been doing for quite some time now. 2015, when we were presented with the issue of the energy deficit, the issue of load shedding hit us so bad that year, if you can remember. That was the beginning of everything. Built the first stove out of scrap metal. It was preparation for the science fair, which is JETS. And we didn't have enough resources to begin to build this whole thing, because the school budget was almost the school fees and was quite higher. But during the nationals also, yes, that's where I think the business side started sparkling, because there was a part where people would approach us on the stand, say, how much are you selling it for, how much? So you just mention random prices. Some you tell them 1,000, some 1,500. And I think by the end of that, we had over close to about 50 to 30 orders. And we got that, went back home after finishing exams in the Eastern Province. I was staying in Copperbelt, Kitwe. And we opened a mini factory. I've had to find a welder, and we began to produce units. From there, I think it kept on building up until when I was given the first opportunity to exhibit at the Agriculture and Commercial Show in Kitwe in 2016. Before I went into university too, I ended up landing myself on an international deal with SASDA, Southern Africa Stainless Steel Development Association, right, in South Africa. So that was my journey from Zambia to South Africa now. We went to produce, to build up this design from just welding to stainless steel using high advanced machines. For the last 3 years, we kept on going every summer from university into South Africa. From South Africa, after 3 years, I got the first recognition in the stainless steel space. Became the first Zambian to win the Stainless Steel International Award. With that invention, obviously meeting various players, and I was coming from my university because I had done 2 years of my university. Then I was going back to now Zambia after winning that award. Saw what was going on in the last 3 years in South Africa, because I would only travel to South Africa, Cape Town, after we closed university. After winning that award in South Africa, when I came back, I saw what was going on there, the industrial advancement. As you may be aware, South Africa is the most industrialized country in Africa. So now, when I came back home, when we saw that what we were doing wasn't enough, obviously it challenged me. And obviously, we went on to begin to have COVID hitting us in 2020. That COVID opportunity, between 2019 and 2020, that opportunity of COVID gave us an opportunity to begin to build other gadgets. But obviously, that one was a build-up from the actual, that charcoal stove to now building Africa's first stainless steel stove.
Right.
From just using something charcoal, we said, can we take away charcoal? So we put in gas, we put in electricity, we put in pellets. So it became a 3-in-1, became the first stove in Africa that would run on 3 fuels,
Right.
probably in the world. From there, obviously that project opened up a lot of doors across, from BET, winning a lot of awards, from BET to Forbes. We collected over in 2-3 years 40 awards across the world, until I was inducted into the Institute of Engineering and Technology 2023 with Sir Henry Royce Prize, the founder of Rolls-Royce. A lot of issues that this industry will solve. So in March we're looking at doing a groundbreaking in Kapiri, sitting on 10 hectares of land, creating, first of all, jobs, 2,000 to 3,000 jobs. For a very long time, we know Zambia hasn't been owning black-owned 100% Zambian-owned enterprises. First of all, we're doing that. We're inspiring the next generations to own industries. We're talking about all the 10 assets, including this one. We're doing the largest of asset in the continent, doing up to 1 million units a month, 12 million a year, sorting regional problems, sorting countries' forex issue, sorting the issue of, for a very long time, Africa go number 7 of United Nations. We're looking at how do we provide energy access. We can't provide energy access if you can't produce it. You cannot always depend on importation of stoves coming from Asia or South Africa then to come into this country to sort your energy issue. So to cap that issue, first of all, looking at how best do we produce ourselves. We're talking about efficiency too. The efficiency, the pricing, the access, because we have all range of types of stores, ranging from 1 plate to 2 plate, from the low income households to the middle class up to upper income. So there's been a lot of demand. Where can we get this stove?
Yeah.
If all goes well, we should look at, within this year, we should be able to complete the factory to be ready to open up for the purchases of stoves. Yes. It's a lot of challenge, but I believe these challenges are quite small. Just as we had the first challenge, at first people had doubts about it, but obviously we have government support now. The only thing, it's a big time for the continent and the country to unite, move in oneness. I think this is something to pay attention to, that contributions can be done by entrepreneurs next, but also the next generation of young people building things. I know probably after us there'll be young people, even right now, probably doing better. They might have doubted they're doing better things than us. We're looking forward that we see that people should come after us, do more greater things. Right. And we believe there'll be also more Zambians in the business space coming up and setting up things that are more better than us. And we encourage everyone that they should step up. It's entrepreneurs to drive the entire economic, obviously with the support from government, but to drive the entire economic activity of this nation.
Now this is Climate Check, still coming to you from Livingstone, Zambia. And right behind me, like earlier said, is the mighty Zambezi River. And we now focus on the river systems in our country. Now, our staffer Zachariah Tawanda Nyimbili spoke to various stakeholders, including African Rivers Technical Advisor Dr. Kelvin Kamayoyo, who spoke about why it is important for us to protect and preserve our rivers, even in the wake of climate change. Take a look.
Social climate reports warn that the rising temperatures, unpredictable rainfall patterns, and prolonged droughts are depleting key water sources. In recent years, Zambia's major rivers such as the Zambezi, Kafue, and Luangwa have experienced fluctuating water levels due to climate change. African Rivers Technical Advisor Kelvin Kamayoyo emphasized the need to protect river species.
We have seen even here in Southern African region, we saw what happened in Botswana and also Zimbabwe and Namibia, where now some of the animals were found dead, like the hippos, because the water levels were reducing. Yes. And our viewers also may wish to know that rivers by their nature are a home to aquatic animals. Just like as human beings, we need shelter. So one of the basic needs for aquatic animals is the rivers. And when climate change causes the water levels to go down, it means some of the animals may not be able to cope, and they tend to come out in search for a better habitable places or some areas where there's still high water levels. And we are seeing that the fish gets also affected. From nowhere, you begin just to see fish is floating. It's dying because of the water levels have gone so low. Promote climate science literacy. We must, by all means, let's try to sensitize each and everyone. Even at household levels, at our homes, let's educate our children on the importance of protecting our environment. The use of plastics, let's also discourage the use of plastics, because they end up also damaging the environment. And that's why we are seeing in our cities, we are grappling with the waste management. It's all because people are not aware about their responsibility to be responsible in the way they dump things or they use the plastics. Yeah, so apart from the climate science literacy, which is linked to education, we should also, I think governments across the continent of Africa, and probably even with the other countries beyond, there should be now more implementation on the climate action strategies.
Green Health Education for Zambia Executive Director Mwiikisa Kalunga stressed the need for stronger environmental policies to prevent further degradation of Zambia's rivers.
Rivers have to be resilient because resilience in this case, the rivers must keep flowing whether there is rainfall or there isn't. Because what happens in the hydrological cycle is that as the rain falls, the water goes to the water table. Some of the water goes to the water table. And this water that goes to the water table is the one that comes slowly sustaining the river flow. So when the water table is disturbed because, for instance, of deforestation at the sources of rivers, it means that there is going to be little water, and so when the dry season comes, the river is very low in terms of discharge. And so it depends on only when the rain comes, that's when you see the river is full. The rivers are, they are perennial. They are supposed to flow throughout. They are not supposed to be seasonal. So one of the things, in fact, the most important things is the protection of the river sources. The vegetation at the sources of rivers must not be tampered with. It's basically the implementation of the laws and policies which we already have. We have the Department of Agriculture. This is one thing that is coming up with the issues of hunger, trying to maintain food security. We would want to go into a lot of farming, but that farming needs to be managed properly so that it's done sustainably and it doesn't damage our deforestation. There is a talk about wetlands agriculture where people think now they can go flat out and clear the wetlands in order for them to get. People have misunderstood it. Now they are clearing river banks. And the Department of Agriculture must come in and sensitize people about sustainable agriculture, eco-agriculture, where we must produce the food, yes, but we must protect our rivers, we must protect our environment, we must protect our forests, because we will still need them to be there for sustainability. So one, the Forestry Department, has these inventories, forest inventories, where they know about how much of which species is found in what place, and so they're able to guide people that are harvesting timber, people that are making charcoal, as to how they can do their production without damaging the environment. So we need these departments to be up to speed, Department of Agriculture, Department of Forestry, in order for production to be guided. Otherwise, we can try to solve one problem and then we end up creating a bigger problem.
As Zambia grapples with the effects of climate change, experts are urging the adoption of sustainable water management practices and policies to protect the country's vital rivers. Reporting for Climate Check, I'm Zakaria Nyambili.
This is Climate Check. We'll take a short break. Join me on the other side. Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi, just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature, such as forests, has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers, and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. Welcome back to Climate Check. Now, a few days ago, delegates from across Africa convened in Lusaka, Zambia, to focus on one major issue: freshwater systems. And so these are women in science that have dedicated their time and expertise towards preservation and protection and adaptation to ensure that we have fresh water in our continent, on our continent, and including Zambia. Remember, Kafue River, for example, is the reservoir of, or the source of fresh water for the entire Lusaka city and surrounding areas. Let's find out what happened at this conference as our staffer Dominic Davis Chifumbe attended the conference.
The IIST Experimental Lakes Area is a unique freshwater research station in Canada. Here we have the ability to work on 58 small lakes. So it's really interesting because by law we've been allowed to take these 58 small lakes and we're allowed to do experiments on them to understand the impacts of human activities on freshwater systems and look for solutions to some of these problems. Well, by doing these research projects on the experimental lakes area, we look at how contaminants like microplastics, like nutrients from our agricultural runoff, things like oil spills, and so how long does it take for some of these contaminants to be taken out of our freshwater systems, what works to remove some of these contaminants. So we're always looking for ways to influence policies, whether they be at the local level or at international levels. We've, for example, influenced the UN Convention on Mercury Management. We're looking to influence the upcoming UN Convention on Microplastics. So these are the things that we're looking to do in our organization.
Right.
Well, I'm here in Lusaka, Zambia. IIST is a supporter and a funder of the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education, ACARE, that is convening this amazing meeting. And we work through the partnership with ACARE. We work to bring together experts around the 7 African Great Lakes. These are amazing. It's an amazing resource. It together with the North American Great Lakes, we actually are talking about 45% of the world's freshwater resources. 25 here in Africa and 20 in North America. So if we can find solutions to these freshwater systems, we can actually influence 45% of our freshwater resources.
I think importantly what to highlight is that this organization is bringing so many members working on the Great African Lakes. I think that's something my colleagues have already mentioned. But in what we are doing mostly is to foster that these people come together, work together. So like the creation of the advisory groups in this case is what is giving a platform for many of these members to share ideas on what they can do in their various countries for the betterment of the work. And then when it comes to other work that the organization does is to ensure that women, for example, are given a platform. So through the African Science, the African Women in Science program. So in this program, again, we have taken women early career scientists, the ones that have never really had a platform to show their work or to show their skills, and given them a good platform so that they can bring in their ideas and also contribute to the work that we are still doing in these Great African Lakes. Then in terms of capacity building, which is also a very big thing for the organization, we have an education and training program. So in this one, we build capacities for various people. So we have many specializations here. So what is key for scientists is communication. I would say we don't know how to communicate our science so that we have a positive impact on society. So we are helping them to know how to package their information, to package their scientific findings, so that at the end of the day we are able to influence policy, which is also one of the major goals for the organization. So what you need to know is that these women come from different backgrounds. Yeah. So if I may highlight a few, we have ecologists, so definitely these have to deal with conservation of these great areas. We have fisheries scientists and policymakers, the ones that we need food. People need to continuously gain from these Great Lakes. So in terms of maybe food, in terms of maybe just provisionary things that they can get out of the system, maybe not necessarily the fish itself. So we have all women coming from various facets of it, even the policymakers themselves, the one that can really help us get the regulations in place that we continuously have this sustainable management of the lake systems for the future. So all these come together through this African Women Science Program. And at the end of the day, we want to see the women that are able to work and have got direct impact in their communities, in their workplaces.
This is the annual meeting for ACARE, which is the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education. And at this meeting, we bring together scientists, more than 200 scientists from all over East and Central Africa who are working on the African Great Lakes. So we bring them here together so that they can learn about each other's work and plan for future collaborations for healthy African Great Lakes. ACARE is the entity that is convening this conference, and we are an entity that works to create highly collaborative systems so that we can have healthy Great Lakes here in Africa. And the way that we do that is we have several programs. One is with our advisory groups, and with the advisory groups, we bring together scientists. They talk monthly and on Zoom, and then they come together once a year. So each of the African Great Lakes has one advisory group, and the advisory groups meet together on Zoom, and then once a year they all come together. So for example, for one of our lakes, we have the Lake Tanganyika Science Advisory Group, and they meet monthly, and then they're in person here meeting all of the other advisory groups. The other really important thing that we're doing, we have an African Women in Science program, and here we are launching our 2025 African Women in Science cohort. So we have 13 women representing all of the 10 African Great Lakes countries, and we have held an orientation and a launch to start the program for these 13 scientists. These 13 women scientists are early career, and they are going to become part of a wonderful network of scientists. We have now, including these women, 72 African women scientists who are part of the ACARE network for what we call AWIS, the African Women in Science program. Right. Well, we have countries that have the African lakes in their borders. So what's very interesting about this is that in East and Central Africa, there are 10 countries that all have African Great Lakes within their borders. The African Great Lakes are all transboundary, meaning that each of those lakes has more than one country around it. So it's very important that we come together to talk about the health of the lakes. You can't protect a lake that has multiple countries surrounding it if only one country is working on it in one way, another country is working in another way. So the countries that are here today, we have Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, DR Congo, Zambia, Malawi, and Mozambique.
We have come to the end of this week's edition of Climate Check. Do make a date with me next week, same time, same channel, as we continue to talk about planet Earth, nature, and of course what you and I can do to protect what God has blessed us with. We've been coming to you from Livingstone, the tourist capital, and our backdrop has been the mighty Zambezi River, the full extent of nature. My name is Mwiikisa. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.